Stop in your sock.
Yes.
Put it in your car and leave it. All right, we're live on YouTube and it is now 6 o'clock. We have an attorney. If you could make us live.
We're live.
The general public. There we go. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Tuesday, September the 8th City Council meeting. I'll now call this meeting to order. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, should she so desire, by Councilwoman Coonrod this afternoon. Councilwoman?
Okay. If you will join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yep, we can move the agenda.
All right, thank you, ma'am. We have no special presentations this afternoon. At this time, could I get approval of the minutes, please?
To approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve with a proper second. Any questions or comments? If not, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes,
There's 9 yeses.
so moved. We now move into order of business for our city council meeting. We have no ordinances on final reading this afternoon. We have several planning items on first reading. Mr. Vice Chair, where are you at?
Yes, sir.
If you would, the first item that is up is in my district, and I would like for you to take the chair at this time so that I can address this item.
Happy to, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk, let's go with the first planning item, item 6A, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone properties located at 251, 263, 269, and 275 Riverside Drive from R1 residential zone to RTZ residential townhouse 0 lot line zone.
All right. We need to go ahead and get Mr. Bridger in for these and then ask.
Would you please?
I'm gonna go ahead and Lydia, if you'd bring Mr. Bridger in, and at this time, and anybody who is on in attendance that may be in opposition of this particular item, if you would please raise your hand and we'd be sure to get to you.
Well, we'll need to do our applicant first.
Yeah, but I know that one, it was going to give you an opportunity to hear opposition, or if there was none, go from there, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I have also, just for everybody, I've not received any signups to speak in opposition of any of these items, so there may not be opposition, sir.
Okay.
So would you like to hear from the applicant, or would you like to comment at this time?
Well, John, would you just go ahead and briefly give us a rundown of this, and then
Sure.
Mr. Vice Chair, I would like to bring in at some point Blythe Bailey.
Very well. Mr. Bridger?
Would you like me to share my screen, or I can just give a quick verbal overview?
Just give a verbal overview just to kind of set it up.
Sure.
For us.
Sure. This is a request for R1 to RTZ for a proposed townhouse development. The property is located along Riverside Avenue, which is at the base of Stringer's Ridge in the North Chattanooga area. Again, the request is from R1 to RTZ. You do have some manufacturing zoning to the south across the street. If you're familiar with the Rock 10 property, this is located just to the north of that. Then above this property on the ridge, you have single family R1. Staff review of this was essentially looking at I think what we focused on was the fact that you already had manufacturing zoning across the street and you had a railroad in the back. And so I think staff's concern was adding more units to an area that's already got manufacturing across the street and then a railroad as far as nuisances down the road. That was kind of our perspective on it. And so we recommended to deny. When we got to Planning Commission, there was no opposition. And after hearing the staff's recommendation and the comments from the applicant, Planning Commission recommended to approve. So it comes with the kind of recommendation to deny from staff and approve from PC. Does that kind of cover it, Councilman?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. All right, let's go ahead and hear from the applicant, Vice Chair.
We do have a hand. That's what I was waiting for. There we go, sir. Mr. Blackwood, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. My name is Derek Blackwood.
Mr. Blackwood, one moment.
Sure.
You will have, since there is no opposition, we'll go ahead and give you the full 9 minutes to present if you would like. I just wanted to let you know that you were on a clock for 9 minutes if you did need it all.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes, sir.
go ahead and give him the 7, and then we'll bring Mr. Bailey in, and then if he wants to refute or rebuttal, that way he would have an opportunity to have some comment at the 2 minutes.
That'd be fine. Mr. Blackwood, you'll have your 7 minutes and then a 2-minute rebuttal if you so desire, sir. Please feel free to begin.
Okay. My name is Derek Blackwood, and I'm with MAP Engineers. And on behalf of our client, the property owner, Mr. Morgan Lane, we are presenting the case before you today to rezone from R1 to RTZ. So our original plan that we've submitted shows 21 townhouse units. However, what we've looked at is in order to be in full compliance with the maximum proposed density of 12 units per acre, that would drop it down to 19 units. So that's more in line with what we're proposing here. The site's pretty isolated. If you've seen an aerial view of the site, it's on Riverside Avenue. There's no real properties around us. We've got Rock 10 across the street, but there's about 300 foot of buffer between our site and the actual plant itself. There's a railroad in the back of our site, and really there's not anything on either side of us. It's kind of an odd shaped oblong lot in the curve. It's actually having just a gentle curve of Riverside Avenue. The railroad, I know there was some discussion about the railroad and the manufacturing being a nuisance. The railroad's kind of sparsely used, from my understanding. It's about once per day, and there's even been some discussion about the railroad kind of deactivating that line, but we're not 100% sure that that's the case just yet. So yes, there's single family residential to the north, but you are isolated by the railroad and Whitehall Road. In our opinion, it's a perfect zone or perfect area for a transition between that manufacturing and then the low density residential, which is why we're requesting an RTZ. There's plenty of buffering around the area. We've had no opposition in regards to this site. We've reached out to adjacent property owners and I think the nearby neighborhood association. The only comment that was raised was a concern about one of the nearby intersections at Riverside Avenue at Whitehall Road. We've since done some traffic counts at the nearby intersections, and it's very sparsely traveled roads. I think if you average it out, what we did is we looked at the AM peak hours and PM peak hours, 2-hour time period on a given weekday. There's about 40 to 45 cars that travel in front of the property in those 2-hour time windows. It's about 2 minutes per vehicle. So it's pretty sparsely traveled. It's our understanding, as Chairman Henderson indicated, that CDOT has commented, and we'll let Mr. Bailey comment to theirs. It's our understanding there may be a little bit of concern about driveway spacing and speed, and we'd like to address those concerns. We don't think that the traffic is a real issue, but with the shape of our property the way that it is, we're pretty constrained with how we can access this. We don't have the ability with the depth of the lot. It's very narrow. The depth of the lot, we don't really have an ability to access the property from the rear. So our access is straight off of Riverside Avenue. And so what we would like to do is, we want to come in off of Riverside Avenue, but propose that we install some sort of a traffic table if speed's an issue coming down through. We know the actual volume's not necessarily an issue, but it may be a concern that speed might be an issue. So we'd be willing to install some traffic tables and/or like a speed traffic calming type device in the road to help mitigate those concerns. But really, what we want to do is, I think what we can do is work with CDOT during the permit phase to satisfy their concerns, but really would request that the rezoning go through as proposed. And then, given the constraints of the property, we work with CDOT during the design phase to kind of work out those issues as far as driveway spacing, meeting those requirements, things like that. So again, we appreciate your time and request that you please consider our request for rezoning.
All right, Mr. Blackwood, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you would like to hear from Mr. Bailey at this point?
I would. So part of my concern, and let me just tee it up for the council. Part of my concern is obviously the staff recommended denial, and when they do that, they don't make any recommendations as far as are there conditions that need to be placed on the property. And my concern was obviously safety with having 19 units and 19 driveways coming out onto this. I reached out to Mr. Bailey, and he was kind enough to give me a few comments in an email. And Mr. Bailey, if you would, you've seen the proposal and you responded in an email. Could you just kind of brief council on your concerns and maybe some precedent that was set in the area as far as conditions on driveways?
Well, certainly, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for having me on. I missed the first part of what you said as I was loading on, but I think I got the gist of it. Yes, you did reach out last week, and you had asked for us to look at what we would try to do with this development to maximize safety. And we looked at a number of requirements. And of course, we always try to limit the number of curb cuts and driveways, because every curb cut and driveway creates a potential conflict with a moving car. So we always try to limit those. And based on a nearby development that had a very similar zoning, it's also a townhome development up on Whitehall that had been conditioned with one curb cut for 5 units. We felt like that was a reasonable precedent to use to try to limit the number of curb cuts in this location and maximize safety for the development. So that was what I had said to you after you asked us to take a look at it.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. So, I mean, you do feel like limiting the number of curb cuts does maximize the safety aspect of rezoning. Obviously, this piece of ground would be more dense than if it was just an R1. So it's your opinion that it would help in the safety aspect of it.
Yes, sir. Generally speaking, we try to limit curb cuts. When we do have curb cuts, we try to do them from the side. In this case, that's not feasible. So limiting curb cuts is the best way to assure safety.
Okay.
Like this.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
You good, Chairman?
I'm good. And Mr. Vice Chair, I know that Mr. Blackwood has a 2-minute rebuttal if he would like to address this. I am concerned about the safety aspect of rezoning this to RTZ and having so many curb cuts. So would be my intent to condition it to 1 curb cut for every 5 units. So go ahead and bring Mr. Blackwood on for his 2-minute rebuttal, sir.
He is here. Mr. Blackwood, are you still with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. You've got 2 minutes to respond.
All right. Okay, so again, this site presents its own constraints with the depth. And again, if we're talking about limiting for one curb cut for every 5 units, this makes this site, it makes it infeasible to do, given the depth of the site. There's just not the ability to do that. We might be able to work with staff to reduce the number, but to reduce it by that amount, basically 4 driveway cuts, it's hamstringing the site to where it's really not feasible to do. And given the current zones, R1, I think RPA staff indicated that we could show or could get, I think, 9 residential units in there, single family residential units, which would allow us to construct 9 single family residential driveways, which is similar to what's being done right down the street at Whitehall at Riverside Avenue with the single family development. So we would just ask that if at all possible that we could work with staff, CDOT staff, to come up with a solution during a permit period, and not be boxed in at this point. And I think we're moving toward a direction to where we're going the extra mile to provide a very good solution to an issue that it may not be necessarily as major as it is perceived. So I would ask that we would be given that opportunity, given the constraints that we have. The precedent for the one on Whitehall Road, they had the depth to come in on the back side and rear load it.
Mr. Blackwood, sorry, but your time's up, sir. Chairman,
All right,
I see no other hands.
Sure. I've heard Mr. Blackwood. I've heard what Mr. Bailey has said. I am concerned, particularly since we got really no recommendation from staff, seeing how they were recommending denial. I am going to move to approve it, but then with the amendment of 1 curb cut per 5 units. So at this time, I'll move to approve.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second to approve.
Now, I would like to move to amend to the condition of 1 curb cut per 5 units.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. So we've got a motion to amend and a proper second. Seeing no other hands, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Muted.
Mr. Mitchell, you're muted, sir.
Thank you. Yes.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses.
All right, sir, the amendment passed. Now,
I move to approve as amended with conditions.
Second.
all right, got a motion and a second. Seeing no further hands, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Chair, would you like to take back over your meeting, sir?
I certainly would. Thank you
The
for
floor is
presiding
yours.
over that. Thank you. Madam Clerk, let's move on to 6B, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 7302 Jernigan Road from R4 Special Zone to C2 Convenience Commercial Zone, subject to certain conditions.
Okay, before we move on, I'm going to ask if the applicant is present, if they would raise their hand. And if there is any opposition, if they would go ahead and raise their hand. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, can you read the conditions for me real quick? You'll need to unmute.
Sure, right here they are. such as the following conditions: no drive-through fast food services, convenience stores, service stations, or adult-oriented establishments. And 2, existing vegetation, except for the removal of invasive species and dead plants, shrubs, or trees, shall be maintained within the required 20-foot landscape buffer between the low-density residential and commercial uses.
Okay, that matches my notes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You may proceed.
Councilman Ledford, I see no opposition, and the only hand, well, maybe. Mr. Vice Chair, you said there was no opposition registered for any of these. Is that correct? You're muted, sir.
Sorry, yes, that is correct. There is nobody that has signed up that wanted to reference any of the planning items.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have not been contacted by any opposition, so I would like to move to approve.
Okay. We have a motion to approve with a proper second. Any questions or comments before we vote? If not, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
9 yeses.
motion carries to approve.
Thank you.
Let's see your play. Shoot, yeah.
I'm sorry? Okay. C, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone parts of 2 properties located at 4409 Elwood Lane and 4409 Jersey Pike from O1 Office Zone to M2 Light Industrial Zone, subject to certain conditions.
Okay, let's just go with the applicant at this point in time. If the applicant is here in attendance, would you please raise your hand as I call on Councilman Gilbert?
I just want to ask John to read the conditions.
Okay. Mr. Bridger, if you would unmute, sir.
Will do. Let me pull it up. Just 1 second. Give me a second. Being stubborn. All right, here we go. There's 3 conditions currently as part of this case. Subject to this, 1, a 58-foot buffer of existing vegetation shall be left along the R1 zone and northern property line. This includes the 8-foot existing utility easement. 2, a 6-foot high chain link security fence shall be constructed to the inside of the buffer for the full length of the M2 zone. And 3, the height of the building, equipment, and any accessory structure shall be limited to 35 feet. This height shall be measured from the finished elevation of the slab.
Finished floor.
It's total of more than that. That's from the planning. I'm talking about what we talked about last week.
Okay. So you add, okay, let me pull up again. I was pulling from the agenda. Give me 1 second. This is the council agenda dated Tuesday, September 8th, which is updated at 9:42 p.m. Attorney Nobblet.
Yes, sir.
Okay, maybe I pulled up the wrong one. Let me see here. See, I'm seeing recommend for approval by planning, their staff version and applicant version. And I'm clicking on the one recommended approval by planning. And it's 3 conditions, unless I'm misreading something.
Well, last week you wasn't here and Brian was, and we added some more conditions to it.
Okay.
He didn't leave the notes for you?
Okay, well, maybe, I don't, Phil, were you going to add those in, or are we supposed to? Okay, I believe that's related to that one lot would be for a detention pond use only.
That was one, and also, I don't have it in front of me, microwave, transmission, it's 3 other.
Okay, all I know is what I've got. I'm just clicking on what's on your agenda packet. So if, I guess one option, just throw it out there, is if y'all want to postpone this a week to make sure we got that language in the agenda. I'm just pulling off of what's currently included in the agenda packet.
Well, I'll just move to defer because I wanted some other conditions in there, and I thought that Brian would add them or someone add them as we spoke about it last
Okay.
week.
Well, I'll coordinate with city attorney, councilman, to make sure those get into next week's packet.
Councilman, let me ask you a question. Can you not just amend tonight those additional conditions?
Well, I'm gonna have to pull my notes to make sure, because I figured it was already done. I gotta
Okay,
pull
all right.
let's find out exactly.
I would say, yeah, to be safe, because there are a bunch of specific use restrictions, as I recall. We probably need to get it formally noted so we don't miss something. I'll follow up on that first thing tomorrow, Councilman.
Thank you.
Sir, was you gonna make a motion to defer
Yes, I did. Make a motion to the next week.
to the 15th?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion to defer this item until the 15th. And with a proper second, questions or comments? Councilman Ledford, I see your hand. Thank you, sir. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
9 yeses.
All right, so moved, deferred until September the 15th. Madam Clerk, if you would, please, 6D.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 1815 East Main Street from M2 Light Industrial Zone to UGC Urban General Commercial Zone subject to certain conditions.
All right. Mr. Attorney, the applicant is the city of Chattanooga, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Apparently so on this one.
All right.
And Chair,
Councilman Byrd?
yes, I've had several conversations and I'm pretty much in the loop and understand the direction of how this project is going, and I'm proud of it and I like it. Do we have any, and I haven't received any opposition. Do we have any opposition here?
There are no oppositions to any case that has registered to speak.
Okay, move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve with a proper second. Questions or concerns before we vote? If not, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
9 yeses.
Motion carries. 6E, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 1006 East 14th Street from R3 residential zone to UGC Urban General Commercial Zone subject to certain conditions.
All right. If the applicant is present, would you raise your hand at this time? And Councilman Byrd.
Mr. Bridger, could you
Yes,
please
sir.
read the conditions for the record for me, please?
Yes, these are the conditions recommended by Planning Commission. One, that the uses limited to residential and office businesses uses only. 2, 50% of the gross floor area shall be residential uses. 3, maximum building height of 35 feet. And 4, commercial vehicle access from the alley only.
That's it. Being that, move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
9 yeses.
Motion carries. 6F, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone unaddressed property in the 3500 block of East 51st Street from R1 residential zone and R3 residential zone to R3 residential zone and A1 urban agricultural zone, subject to certain conditions.
All right, would the applicant for this item go ahead and raise your hand if you are present? Councilwoman Coonrod.
Oh, I was saying, do we have anybody who, the applicant or anybody against it?
Well, the applicant is present and we have no registered opposition to any of the case.
Okay.
Would you like to hear from the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, he's coming on now. Mr. Garrison,
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
we can. You'd have 7 minutes with a 2-minute rebuttal if so needed.
Okay, we have a little over 11 acres in that that parcel that right now is R1 and primarily R3. And we are proposing to take basically all of the R1 and a little of the R3 and rezone that to A1. We are looking to build a greenhouse and have an aquaponic farm on the site. The conditions that we were given in the planning from the planning committee were no livestock or fowl, which we're happy to abide by. And yeah, any questions I'd be happy to answer.
Councilwoman Coonrod?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion at this time?
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Councilman Ledford,
Second.
is that a second? Okay.
Yes.
We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
9 yeses.
motion carries. That takes care of our planning items for this afternoon. We now move down to resolutions. Mr. Bridger? As always, it's been a pleasure. Madam, or Miss Liddy, you can excuse Mr. Bridger. If there are no objections, let's, under resolutions, let's take everything under economic and community development items A, B, and C, if there's no objection from the council. Madam Clerk.
Item A, a resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a lease agreement in substantially the form attached with Hickson United Methodist Church for the use of the athletic fields by the city of Chattanooga for the purpose of the site being used as a public park, recreation grounds, and athletic fields, subject to the terms of the agreement for a term of 10 years. Item B, a resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a first amendment to facilities use agreement, an option to renew and substantially the form attached with the University of Tennessee on behalf of this Chattanooga campus for use as an indoor softball facility on a portion of tax map number 146GA001 at 301 North Holtzclaw Avenue for an additional term of 1 year. Item C, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute documents necessary for the termination of the right of reversion for property conveyed to Habitat for Humanity of Greater Chattanooga, Inc. for the purpose of affordable housing on the parcel located at 2026 Bachman Street, identified as tax parcel number 136DF004.
All right. What's the pleasure of the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a proper motion on the floor with a second. Any questions or comments before we vote? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
9 yeses.
motion carries 9-0. All right, now let's move into human resources. Madam Clerk, with no opposition from the council, read D and E, please.
Item D, a resolution authorizing the appointment of Timothy Hubert Brooks as a special police officer unarmed for the Land Development Office of the Department of Economic and Community Development to do special duty as prescribed herein, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman
Item-
Gilbert?
Can you read both of them?
No.
Oh,
Item
I'm sorry.
E.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Me, a resolution authorizing the appointment of Angela Lowry as a special police officer on our city court to do special duty as prescribed to in subject to certain conditions.
I was getting ahead of myself. Now, Councilman Gilbert.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
9 yeses.
so moved. Now let's take planning item F, Madam Clerk.
A resolution approving a special exceptions permit for an existing liquor store change in ownership located at 5012 Highway 58, Suite 108.
Councilman Gilbert.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? If not, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
No,
That's 8 yeses.
8. Motion carries. All right, Madam Clerk, let's take items G through K if there are no oppositions to taking these as a package. Let me, Councilman Gilbert, is that an old hand or you have opposition to taking all those?
No, that's all hand, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, G through K, please.
Yes. Item G, a resolution authorizing payment of the annual 2020 through 2021 GIS application support to New Origin, Inc. for maintenance and support of GIS field and mobile applications for the water quality program in the amount of $35,000. Item H, a resolution to amend resolution number 30020 as adopted on August 6, 2019 relative to the agreement for the closure, post-closure plan for the City of Chattanooga Solid Waste Processing Facility with the State of Tennessee Division of Solid Waste Management by deleting an amount not to exceed $37,991.61 and substituting in lieu thereof an amount not to exceed $38,675.45. Item I, a resolution to amend resolution number 30021 as adopted on August 6, 2019 relative to the agreement for the closure, post-closure plan for the city landfill with the State of Tennessee Division of Solid Waste Management by deleting an amount not to exceed $1,588,003.30 and substituting in lieu thereof an amount not to exceed $1,546,300.95. Item J, a resolution to amend resolution number 30022 as adopted on August 6, 2019 relative to the agreement for the closure, post-closure plan for the city landfill lateral expansion area 3 with State of Tennessee Division of Solid Waste Management by deleting an amount not to exceed $7,886,230.73 and substituting in lieu thereof an amount not to exceed $8,028,182.88. Item K, a resolution to amend resolution number 30023 as adopted on August 6, 2019 relative to the agreement for the closure, post-closure plan for the Summit Sanitary Landfill with the State of Tennessee Division of Solid Waste Management by deleting an amount not to exceed $1,574,774.19 and substituting in lieu thereof an amount not to exceed $1,424,995.67.
All right, what is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve items G through K with a proper second. Any questions or comments before we vote? If not, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
9 yeses.
so moved. All right, Miss Lydia, would you bring in Tony Salmons as we pull up our purchases for this evening?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Sammons.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of
There we
council.
go.
We have one purchase item for your review, and there is one emergency purchase for your information. Tonight's purchase comes from the Waste Resource Division of Public Works. The purchase of liquid calcium nitrate being purchased from Source Technologies LLC in an estimated annual cost of $1,800,000. And that concludes tonight's purchase.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sammons. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve this purchase item with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? If not, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Oglesby,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
9 yeses.
motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Sammons. Ms.
Thank
Lydia,
you.
you can excuse Mr. Sammons at this time. We do have one item under other business. Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir. This is a change in ownership simply for an existing liquor store that will be located at 5012 Highway 58. That was the special exceptions permit that was just approved recently by the council. And this will require 5 signatures by council members this evening for it to be done. The council clerk has the ability to be able to put your names on if you'll give her approval.
Make sure Chip gets it.
Would it be safe to say that everybody that voted to approve it gives their consent for your signature?
Yes.
I hear no objections to that. So, Madam Clerk, everybody that voted for it, you have their consent to put their signature on it.
Yes,
Any
thank
other
you.
any other business that needs to come before the council at this time? Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to recognize a young lady. She's a senior. Her name is Reagan Conley. She attends Baylor. She's a 4-star recruit. She's already committed to Wake Forest. ESPN has ranked her number 60. So I wanted to highlight that because a lot of times we hear only, all the bad stuff that kids are doing. And I think, this young lady, even after being out a season for a whole year for an injury, and for her to come back and be ranked number 60, that's amazing. That's something that needs to be highlighted. Yeah. And then also, I just wanted to just bring up about an article that I read. Don't know if you all read Forbes, but the headline caught me by surprise because it said, a second stimulus check could be coming, and can the Black community wait? It's these type headlines that dictate the narrative and continue to victimize Black people. And Black people have become acceptable of this kind of thing. We're not waiting around for no stimulus, I will hope, because it's more than life than just waiting on a stimulus check. There's plenty of jobs that are out there. Volkswagen rolled out the announcement that they're in need of 150 people. Go on that website and apply. When I ride down Brainerd Road, everywhere businesses got signs saying we are hiring. We're in desperate need of help. So employment opportunities are available for people. Even they're saying we want people that have background issues. So this is the time for people to start applying for jobs. If you need help, reach out to, our Economic Development Workforce Department so we can get you help with your resume, get you prepared for, the interview. If you need a interview attire, that's what we're here for. It's that kind of thing, to connect you to the tools and the resources so we can stop reading headlines like this. And one last thing, if you haven't saw the documentary Uncle Tom, I'm asking everybody, all of my constituents, the entire city of Chattanooga, to go and watch that documentary, because Black people gotta get our encouragement and our empowerment back. You may, I know you're not gonna agree with everything that's said, but I guarantee you that that documentary is gonna spark you to want to do something for yourself. That's it, Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other business that needs to be brought before the council? Councilman Byrd.
I appreciate it, Chair. Once again, having issues with these alleyways, where the city has definitely abandoned the alleyway, but we do not maintain the alleyway. I have several constituents that have had these alleyways in my community for at least 20 years. They've lived there, and trees have grown crazy. And now some of these trees are starting to fall in their yards, and they're being told that, hey, we have nothing to do with it because we abandoned the alleyway, and we're sorry. We're not going to give up the alleyway, but we have abandoned it. So I definitely would like to talk to Blythe and the city attorney about things that maybe we can do at least once a year in maintaining or doing something with these alleyways, because it's not fair if we're not going to turn them over to the constituents and let them have the land or maintain the land themselves. It just shouldn't be a cost or a burden to our constituents to have to do that while they're already paying taxes. The other thing is, if someone from the staff, I thought I heard, I think that's Blythe too, saying that he was talking with the railroad. I am getting so many complaints in District 8 about the noise at all times of day and night coming from the railroad. And I know it's been told in history with us that we have no jurisdiction over the railroad. We can't say nothing to the railroad. We can't go talk to the railroad. But some of my senior constituents are saying that it was something put in place. I've been looking for it, and maybe you can help me out with it, Phil, that, you know, at certain times, like 2 and 3 in the morning, that it's a noise where they will not bang the cars together or do certain things so that people can rest at night. But I'm trying to find that. I haven't found it. And it's always just been told that it's nothing we can do. You got to deal with it. It's the railroad. But I would like to talk to you, Phil, about that, or someone who's talking to the railroad now about repairing some of the bridge work that we have, to see if we can come up with something. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Nobbit,
Yes.
been brought to my attention. I think Mr. Salmon said he had an emergency purchase that he needed to report on. Is that correct? Do I need to bring him back for that report?
He didn't tell me. Yes, sir. I believe so.
Mr. Salmons, I tell you what, Miss Lydia, would you grab Mr. Salmons again? Mr. Salmons?
What a quick change here.
Quick change, Tony.
Sorry about that, sir. I think you were supposed to give us a report on an emergency purchase. Is that correct? You're muted.
Can't hear you.
You're muted.
That is correct.
My bad.
Let me pull that back up for you.
I think I ushered you out a little too quickly.
Let me find that.
Change, Tony. I love it.
I don't blame him.
Hey, I have to keep you on your toes. Let's see here. Disappear for me. Give me just 1 second here. That emergency purchase was to Civic 10 in the amount of $5,000 for outreach and awareness services related to safe voting practices ahead of the November election, all related to COVID.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Sammons on this? Okay. My apologies, Mr. Sammons. Certainly this failed to.
Nope, none needed, none needed.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. All right, Miss
Alrighty.
Lydia, you can take him away for good this time.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now,
Let's see
now-
what he's got on next time.
Oh, I'm gonna have to be careful about asking for people to be brought on, Miss Lydia, I guess. Let's go move to committee reports. I'm gonna just go down the line. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Yes, our YFD sites, our super sites are now open to do virtual learning sessions. We're partnering with our schools. Right now, it's only 40 kids, 10 for each room. Social distancing measures are being, adhered to, and then they have the teacher that's teaching them virtually to kind of help, parents that are at home that need to have, somewhere for their kids to go. So if there's anybody who needs to take advantage of that service, contact the YFD site so that you can have further information on, how you can get your child enrolled in it and, getting them placed at a YFD site. You have to provide your own transportation. There's 2 sessions, 8 to noon or either 1 to 4, and you have to provide your child or children lunch. So again, you're responsible for the transportation. You're also responsible for providing your lunch. If you choose to send your child or children to a local YFD sites, we're only providing a facility with safe measures in place to partner with our school system virtually. So again, you will provide the lunch. The sessions are 8 to noon and 1 to 4. You will provide your own transportation. It will be done virtually in partnership with the Hamilton County Schools. The rec center directors or workers, they're not there to tutor your kids, discipline your kids, any of that kind of stuff. There's not going to be a SRO on staff. So make sure that you're communicating with your children to be on their best behavior. Otherwise, you'll receive that phone call to come pick up your kid.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman Coonrod. Councilwoman Burrs.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Today we had a Budget and Finance Committee meeting, and we were educated to several proposed resolutions and capital and operational budget amendments that will be scheduled for first and second reading on the 22nd and the 29th. On the 15th next week, we've already sent out notice, but this will give the public a notice again that we will have a public hearing. We've allowed for 2 hours and at 2 minutes each to speak to hear from the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll have a Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting after agenda session next week.
Councilman Ledford.
No report, Chairman.
Councilman Byrd.
No report.
Councilman Gilbert.
No report.
Vice Chair Smith.
No report, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Oglesby.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. On next week, September 15th, the Economic and Community Development Committee will have a presentation from the Chamber on a land acquisition at Enterprise South Industrial Park. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you, sir. All right. Vice Chair Smith, do we have anybody registered to speak at public comment time?
We have 2 individuals that are registered to speak, sir.
All right. We now come to the portion of this time in our agenda that we recognize persons wishing to address the council. If you are in attendance this afternoon and you have registered to speak, and you'd like to speak at this time, would you please raise your hand and let us know that you'd like to speak? Mr. Attorney, since we do have some that's registered, go ahead and read the rules for engagement while they are raising their hands if they desire.
Yes, sir. Governor Lee has issued a new executive order, number 60 here, which is in effect until October the 28th, to allow electronic meetings to continue by this body. Based upon those provisions, public comment can occur at the end of each council meeting if the chair recognizes members of the public that wish to address the council. Here's your rules. Each speaker wishing to address the council can only be recognized whenever you come on. You have to provide a name, address, or council district of residence before addressing the council. You can't have more than 3 minutes to speak, and you can address the council only upon matters within the council's legislative and quasi-judicial authority, and not upon matters that are not within the council's authority or are regulated by other governmental bodies or agencies. You are not permitted to use any vulgar or obscene language, nor use the floor to personally attack or personally denigrate others, and address your comments to the council as a whole and not make comments directed towards individual council members. Please go ahead with those rules. You can only speak one time a day here. That's part of your rules as well, but tonight this is the time.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Vice Chair Christopher Corley, is he good to go?
Yes, sir.
Miss Lydia, would you bring Mr. Corley in, please?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Sorry, I was waiting on the timer.
There we go.
Dr. Christopher Corley, District 2, he, him pronouns, please. Just as some quick background, I live in a neighborhood majorly affected by the rainwater. Me and my neighbor's toilets stop up whenever it rains during the wet season, and the sewer overflows into the streets, our yards, and even our bathtubs. So not only can I not flush my toilet for several days after an average rainstorm, but I cannot shower or simply walk out of my house without potentially stepping in human waste. Yes, we have this consent decree for over 7 years now, and we're addressing some of it, slowly but surely. But to think that the Department of Justice had to file a lawsuit against the city because of how poorly our city is run, that's kind of astounding. And I'd like to relate this back to what someone on the council said earlier today. You know, why does it take a pandemic to finally fund internet access for students? Likewise, why did it take the DOJ and EPA to step in before we did something? It is indeed kind of sad. And, you know, I ask the question is, how do we keep finding ourselves in this kind of situation in the first place? Personally, I think this is because the mayor pushes outcome-based budgeting instead of a participatory budgeting system. It seems that the budget is handed to us and we can agree to it or else. For example, because of this, the police budget has grown to be double the public works budget. We watch our dollars go into new police uniforms, new squad cars, new guns and ammunition, new training centers, and so on and so on, when we're out here unable to simply flush our toilets, or our alleyways are going overburdened with brush, and we're unable to give our city employees raises or even retain them. I believe the budgeting process we have right now is power-driven instead of people-driven. We're funding the things without appropriate amount of citizens' input or even council input. I think that if we had a participatory budgeting system, that some of these problems would not manifest as long as they do and would not go unnoticed. So I would like to see two things. You know, first, of course, I want to see a reduction in the police's budget and an increase of the public works budget. The public works budget should not be half of what it is we spend on policing. It should be at least on par, if not double. I'm happy to hear that the council is reconsidering the DSA budget amendments. Please do that. And I look forward to hearing other people's inputs next week. But secondly, and more importantly, I want to see the city move to include participatory budgeting, where people are actually allowed to vote on our budget instead of feeling like these calls are our only chance of being heard and thus being ignored. So I'd like to encourage the council to head over to somewhere like participatorybudgeting.org to learn more about something like this. I think this is potentially a huge tool that we could give citizens to make sure that everyone feels satisfied with how we spend our money.
Thank you, sir. All right, is there anyone else who has registered to speak that would like to do so at this time? If you do, please raise your hand. I'll give you just a moment. Council, I am seeing no hands at this time. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
So moved. See everybody next week.
See you.